Dietary fats and lipids are transformed into critical life-sustaining outputs by several body systems and several physiologic processing activities. We're going to start by looking at the digestion and absorption of dietary fats by the gastrointestinal system, and more specifically, the uniqueness of dietary fat in the way that it's absorbed. The digestion of fat begins in the mouth with the salivary enzyme lingual lipase. So lingual lipase, like the gastric enzyme gastric lipase, functions to cleave free fatty acids from their glycerol backbone. So those bonds are broken through hydrolysis or those hydrolase enzymes so that free fatty acids are broken to diglycerides and monoglycerides and a few single free fatty acids that will move along to the small intestine. So a little farther down the GI tract, we continue in our digestion of dietary fats with a couple different compounds that are coming from our accessory organs. So we introduce the liver and its role in producing bile, but here's where we see bile have a role in the absorption of nutrients. So liver makes bile, stores it in the gallbladder. As fat is coming through, gallbladder releases into the lumen of the small intestine bile. What bile does is it takes large globs of fat, which you can kind of visualize. Take a large globule of fat and the bile emulsifies it, so it breaks it into lots of little teeny droplets, which gives it more surface area and gives it more accessibility for other digestive enzymes like pancreatic lipase. So just a little recap, we've got lingual lipase in the mouth, we've got gastric lipase in the stomach. Now we're getting to the small intestine and there's a pancreatic enzyme that's going to complete or finish the hydrolysis or liberation of those free fats from those glycerol backbones. And so looking over at the enterocyte, it does absorb those free fatty acids and glycerol. Anything that's short or medium chain in chain length in terms of fatty acids is going to be absorbed straight into the enterocyte and through to the blood. But if it's a long chain fatty acid, it's actually going to be taken into the enterocyte, repackaged into a substance called a chylomicron that's going to get involved in the absorbed into the lymph system, which is the fat soluble system in our body. So the lymph system will take this chylomicron and it will end up circulating it through general circulation, but that's how long chain fatty acids are absorbed. They need special packaging in the enterocyte and they're going to be absorbed in the lymphatic system as opposed to the general blood system. Now, if we look at how fat is circulated, chylomicrons are essentially like the carriers. They're like the suitcase for the fats. They're packaged in there nice and tight. So chylomicrons travel around from the lymph system till they end up back in portal circulation. And the first place they go is dropping off fatty acids and important tissues, like the heart, which is a big user of free fatty acids, the muscle tissue, of course, the adipose or fat tissues if we're in excess, and then the main important place that it goes once it drops off all those fatty acids through the enzymatic action of lipoprotein lipase, which getting a little bit detailed, but this enzyme exists in our endothelial lining or in our blood vessels. So as the fatty acids are going by, the lipase in the endothelial lining in those areas activates triglycerides to be broken up, liberating free fatty acids to be taken in to heart, muscle, and fat cells. So whatever's left in the remnant after it's dropped off fatty acids through the action of lipoprotein lipase in our endothelial tissues, once it has dropped off all of those fats, then the remnant goes back to the liver. Now the chylomicron remnant is processed by the liver and we see all sorts of things happen to it. It can be repackaged out as cholesterol and it can be used to synthesize bile, as we talked about as an important function of the liver. So we're going to look more at cholesterol processing and the functions of fats in the liver when we take a look at nutrition for disease and how to control blood cholesterol levels. But right now we're going to move on to once fat is in the cell and it's metabolized. So fatty acids are metabolized in our cell. They're stored and they're also broken down. So we're going to look at both catabolism and anabolism of fats. So when we look at the genesis or building or synthesis of stored fats or stored triglycerides, we look at this process called dehydration synthesis. And it's basically where you've got your glycerol backbone and through a process called dehydration synthesis, which removes water, which is the opposite of hydrolysis, which adds water, but it takes water out and it forms bonds. So these ester bonds are formed and this allows us to create triglycerides. So when we create triglycerides from free fatty acids in our cell, it's called the lipogenesis pathway. Now, we can also, in some specialized cells, take those free fatty acids and synthesize essential fats. So if you remember, we talked about how some of our fats we don't really need in the diet. We can make them. So we have to have the essential ones, and then those are precursors to the ones that our body makes, particularly what we call preformed DHA and EPA. So we take our essential fats, omega-3 and omega-6, and we convert those to these active biological compounds. And I won't go into all of the biochemical processes, but know that it involves adding carbons and it involves desaturating. So we're adding carbons and desaturating some of those double bonds to create longer and less saturated fatty acids. And these have important biological roles that we'll talk about in component 4. We can also break down or utilize fats through lipolysis. And so lipolysis is when you take stored triglycerides. So what you're looking at is a close-up of a fat globule inside of adipose tissue. So adipose tissue, the particular type of cells or adipocytes have this nice big globule storage area. That's what we love about our fat cells, is they store. So the globule is what you're looking at zoomed up here. And what happens is glucagon is one of those hormones that start catabolic processes. Glucagon binds to the receptor, and so does epinephrine, which is a central nervous system hormone that's elicited in certain conditions, which we'll talk about in Module 3. But those two hormones come up to the cell, and they initiate a series of events between kinases and cytokines, and it leads to the breakdown of triglycerides to free fatty acids. And it's mainly through the action of the hormone sensitive lipase. So this is one particular enzyme that, again, hydrolyzes or breaks those free fatty acids from that glycerol. And it frees the fats for what? To be used somewhere else, wherever else they might be needed. So this is utilization of fat, or the catabolism of stored fats. We also can use fats in a respiration or when we make energy. And I've introduced you to this concept before of taking nutrients and turning them into energy through the TCA cycle and the electron transport chain. However, fats are too big to get into the mitochondrial membrane. So before they can go in with their long cells having so many carbons, they have to go through what's called the beta oxidation process, or sometimes it's called the beta spiral. I've seen lots of different names for it through the years, but essentially what it means is that we're taking long chains of fatty acids and cleaving them into simple 2-carbon units. And this can't happen without the facilitation of carnitine, which is an enzyme that exists on the mitochondrial membrane, without carnitine transferase. That's what helps get fat into the mitochondria so that it can be oxidized for energy. And you're going to watch a video on the TCA cycle and the electron transport chain. And I would never test you on all of the little intermediate steps and products of those metabolic pathways, but just letting you know what feeds into those pathways. And we'll get back to what the purpose of that is when we talk about the functions of dietary fat in providing our cells tons of energy. So that is all I have for you on the digestion, absorption, circulation, and metabolism of our dietary fats and lipids to create critical life-sustaining functional outcomes that we'll talk about in component 4. Thanks for listening.